Emergency meetings are being arranged in Western capitals, and they are not about tariffs. They are about factories being shut down because they cannot get raw materials. Stock markets from London to New York are flashing red. Commodity traders are scrambling. Factories in Germany, France, and the United States are staring at supply chains suddenly running dry. Well, for decades, the West assumed Africa's resources would always flow like an endless river. That they will be cheap, raw, and compliant. But that illusion just shattered. 10 African nations, in rapid succession, have slammed the brakes on raw material exports. Uranium, gold, lithium, coffee, cocoa, timber, and chrome, which are essential for global industry, are no longer guaranteed shipments to Western ports. It is not Africa trembling this time. It is the West. Energy grids in Europe, tech giants in Silicon Valley, and automakers in Detroit now face a nightmare. Their invisible dependence on Africa is suddenly, brutally visible. The question that rattles through every boardroom and government hall is simple, chilling, and impossible to ignore. What really happened, and what should we do? In this video, let's find out. Number 10. Namibia. Lithium is to the 21st century what oil was to the 20th. Without it, there are no electric vehicles, no smartphones, no renewable energy batteries. It's the heartbeat of the so-called green economy, and Namibia just put its foot down. In 2023, the government announced restrictions on the export of unprocessed critical minerals, with lithium at the center. The rule was simple but revolutionary. If foreign companies wanted Namibia's lithium, they could no longer ship it raw. They had to refine, process, or partner inside Namibia. This move cut straight into the global supply chain. Automakers like Tesla and Volkswagen, along with battery giants in Europe and Asia, suddenly had a choice: either invest directly in Namibian facilities or scramble for alternative supplies that are increasingly scarce. What Namibia did was turn the tables. Instead of being a passive supplier, it became a gatekeeper of green energy. But the significance goes further. Western governments often preach sustainability, fairness, and green transitions. Yet when Namibia demanded that its people should share in the wealth of lithium, panic spread in corporate boardrooms. The hypocrisy was exposed. It's fine to talk about a green future, but not if Africans insist on keeping a bigger share of it. Namibia didn't flinch. Its leaders understood that lithium wasn't just a mineral. It was leverage, a tool to demand investment, jobs, and industrialization at home. By drawing a line, Namibia is ensuring that the shift to electric vehicles and renewable energy won't be another chapter of Africa giving away wealth while others cash in. Instead, Namibia is shaping itself as a partner, not a pawn. And the West now has to play by Namibia's rules. Number 9. Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast produces nearly 40% of the world's cocoa. Every chocolate bar, from Hershey's to Ferrero Rocher, has roots in Ivorian soil. And yet, for decades, the country earned pennies compared to the billions raked in by Western chocolate companies. This was the cruel paradox. The nation that grew the beans remained one of the poorest links in the chain. But that era is ending. Ivory Coast recently restricted raw cocoa exports and began investing heavily in local chocolate manufacturing. The government's aim is crystal clear: to move up the value chain. Instead of sending off beans and importing back expensive chocolate, the country wants to roast, grind, and process locally. That way, jobs are created, industries built, and more of the profits stay in Abidjan instead of flowing to Zurich or Brussels. The ripple effects are immediate. Multinational chocolate companies now face an uncomfortable choice: partner with the Ivory Coast and invest locally, or lose their easy access to cheap raw cocoa. Either way, they can no longer take the Ivory Coast resources for granted. Beyond economics, this is about respect. Why should Ivorians, who grow the majority of the world's cocoa, be excluded from the wealth of the chocolate industry? Why should the farmers who supply the raw ingredients stay poor while glossy ads in the West portray chocolate as a symbol of luxury and happiness? Ivory Coast's move isn't just a trade policy. It's a moral correction. Africa is no longer the sweet tooth of the world. It's rising as a chocolate power in its own right. Number 8. Congo. If lithium is the blood of the green economy, then cobalt is its spine. Without cobalt, there are no high-performance batteries, no smartphones, no electric cars. And the Democratic Republic of Congo holds over 70% of the world's reserves. For years, global tech giants quietly depended on Congolese mines to keep their products alive. Apple's iPhones, Tesla's batteries, Samsung's electronics, all of them trace back to Congolese earth. But here's the tragedy. Congo remained poor. Raw cobalt and copper were dug out and exported at low prices, then processed in China or Europe, where the real profits were made. Communities near mines saw pollution and exploitation, not prosperity. That's changing. The DRC has imposed new restrictions requiring companies to process more of its minerals inside the country. No more raw shipments without added value. For Western and Asian companies, this is a nightmare. Their costs rise, their control shrinks, and they are forced to either build plants in Congo or pay a steep premium. For the DRC, it is nothing less than justice. Why should one of the most resource-rich countries in the world remain poor while the West and Asia get rich off its minerals? By flexing its cobalt dominance, Congo is repositioning itself not as a supplier, but as a central player in the global tech and energy economy. The symbolism is powerful. The very devices and cars that symbolize modern life now depend on Congo's terms. Number 7. Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is one of the world's top producers of chrome, a mineral crucial for making stainless steel and specialty alloys. For decades, the pattern was predictable. Zimbabwe exported raw chrome ore at low prices. Foreign smelters turned it into high-value steel products, and Zimbabwe got crumbs from the deal. But in recent years, Harare pulled the plug. The government banned the export of raw chrome, forcing companies to build smelters and processing plants inside the country. The logic was simple. If chrome is going to fuel global industries, then it should also fuel Zimbabwe's own economy. The results are beginning to show. New smelting facilities are being developed, creating jobs and retaining more value locally. Western industries that once relied on cheap Zimbabwean ore now face higher costs and tighter supply. The era of cheap, easy chrome handouts is over. For Zimbabwe, this isn't just about economics. It's about dignity and self-respect. It sends a signal that natural wealth will no longer leave without building wealth at home. For years, the world treated Zimbabwe as a source of raw ore. Now Zimbabwe is saying, we are not just suppliers, we are builders of our own industry. Number 6. Ghana. Gold has always been Ghana's signature resource. From the ancient days of the Ashanti Kingdom, when West Africa was known to Arab and European traders as the land of gold, to the modern period where multinational mining corporations dominate production, Ghana's name has been tied to this metal. Yet for centuries, the paradox remained. A nation overflowing with gold still found itself reliant on the US dollar, the euro, and IMF loans to stabilize its economy. The gold that left was raw, the profits left with foreign companies, and Ghana was left vulnerable to global shocks. That changed with the Bank of Ghana's gold purchase program. The government mandated that mining companies must sell 20% of refined gold directly to the central bank, ensuring that a substantial portion of national wealth stayed within the country. Alongside this, companies were required to refine at least part of their gold locally rather than shipping it out raw. This was a double blow to the old system. First, Ghana began building up its gold reserves as a hedge against currency crises. And second, it forced value-added activities like refining, smelting, and secondary industries onto Ghanaian soil. The symbolism was huge. Instead of being a country that mined gold only for foreign vaults and jewelry counters in London, New York, and Dubai, Ghana positioned itself as a sovereign player. Every ounce kept at home is an ounce of independence from the volatile swings of foreign exchange markets. For ordinary Ghanaians, this wasn't just policy. It was a reclamation of pride. Western corporations may complain of higher costs, but Ghana now has leverage. Its gold is no longer a cheap giveaway. It's a weapon of sovereignty. Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black Africa. Let's continue now. Number 5. Uganda. Uganda's rolling green hills produce some of the finest coffee beans in the world, but for decades, the country fell into the classic raw export trap. Farmers worked tirelessly, harvesting beans under tough conditions, yet the real profits were earned elsewhere. Western corporations like Nestlé and Starbucks bought raw beans dirt cheap, shipped them to Europe or the US, roasted and packaged them, and then sold them at prices that dwarfed what Ugandan farmers ever saw. The result? Uganda remained dependent, while Western brands grew fat on African labor. In 2021, Uganda decided it had had enough. The government banned raw agricultural exports, including coffee and tea, effectively cutting off the system that siphoned value away. Instead, Uganda insisted that only processed coffee, roasted, ground, and packaged, would leave its borders. This was a bold gamble. It meant investing in local processing plants, training workers, and restructuring supply chains. But the payoff was enormous. Every bag of coffee that leaves Uganda now carries not just beans, but added value, in the form of jobs for Ugandans, tax revenue for the state, and dignity for farmers. For the global coffee giants, this is a disruption. Their margins shrink, their supply chains are forced to adapt, and their grip on the market loosens. For Uganda, it is liberation. No longer is the country just a plantation for foreign profit. It is becoming a full player in the coffee industry. And on a symbolic level, it tells the world, Africa will no longer grow wealth for others while its own people remain poor. Every sip of Ugandan coffee is now a sip of sovereignty. But coffee isn't the only front where Uganda is drawing the line. President Yoweri Museveni has also declared a total ban on iron ore exports, famously vowing that it will only happen over his dead body. The reason is simple. Uganda has long watched its iron ore ship abroad raw and cheap, only to return as expensive finished steel products. Museveni's stance is uncompromising. Uganda's ore must fuel Uganda's steel industry, not enrich factories overseas. By blocking exports, he is forcing global companies to either invest in local smelting and steel production or walk away. Number 4. Gabon. When Gabon announced in 2010 that it would ban raw log exports, the reaction from foreign companies was disbelief. For decades, Europe and Asia had relied on cheap, unprocessed Gabonese timber to fuel their furniture, flooring, and luxury wood industries. The model was straightforward. Cut down the trees in Gabon, ship them out, add value abroad, and sell them back at a markup. Gabon provided the raw material, and the world pocketed the wealth. At the time, critics warned that Gabon's move would cripple its economy by driving away buyers. Instead, the opposite happened. By keeping logs inside the country, Gabon forced the development of local processing industries like sawmills, carpentry workshops, furniture factories, and plywood production. Jobs multiplied, and the economy began to diversify. Instead of being a monoculture export nation, Gabon became a center for wood-based manufacturing. The deeper meaning of this move goes beyond economics. Gabon effectively told the world, "We are not your warehouse." No longer would its forests serve as Europe's raw stockpile. Instead, Gabon would treat its natural resources as the foundation of its own national development. Today, foreign buyers face a stark choice. Either purchase Gabonese wood as a finished product at higher prices or go elsewhere. Either way, Gabon holds the leverage. Looking back more than a decade later, the decision that once looked reckless now appears visionary. It inspired other African nations, like Mozambique, to follow suit. It showed that refusing to play the role of raw supplier wasn't suicidal. It was transformative. Gabon's timber policy stands as a lesson in economic justice. Resources mean nothing if their value doesn't stay home. Number 3. Guinea. While much of the debate about Africa's sovereignty centers on oil, gold, and minerals, Guinea made a stand on something even more fundamental: food. For years, Guinean fields produced staples like rice, maize, and yams. But much of that harvest was shipped abroad, feeding foreign markets while Guineans themselves endured shortages and price spikes. The image was painful: a fertile country with hungry people. Guinea's government finally said, "Enough." It banned the export of staple crops, shifting the focus from foreign markets to domestic needs. This wasn't a move about chasing higher profits. It was about something deeper: dignity. The policy declared that Guineans would no longer go hungry while their harvests filled foreign warehouses. The message was clear: our people first. Western importers, long accustomed to cheap Guinean produce, were caught off guard. Suddenly, their supply chains shrank, costs rose, and the assumption that Africa would always act as the world's pantry collapsed. For Guinea, however, the benefits were immediate and symbolic. Ensuring local food security wasn't just policy. It was sovereignty at its purest. By prioritizing feeding its own citizens, Guinea highlighted a critical truth. Independence isn't just about borders and flags. It's about whether a nation can nourish its own people before serving others. The West may grumble about tighter supplies, but Guinea's move resonates across the continent as a blueprint for how to reclaim agency in the most basic human way possible. Number 2, Mozambique. If Gabon was the pioneer, Mozambique was the disciple who turned policy into practice. For decades, Mozambique's forests were stripped bare, their raw logs shipped to Asia and Europe. Just like Gabon, the model was exploitation. Mozambican workers cut the trees, foreign companies processed them abroad, and the profits never returned home. That cycle ended in 2017 when Mozambique banned raw log exports. The reasoning was simple but radical. If our forests can build your industries, why can't they build ours? From that moment, foreign buyers could no longer just load logs onto ships. They had to invest locally, buy processed timber, or leave. The result has been transformative. Local carpentry workshops, furniture factories, and plywood industries began to spring up. Mozambican workers who once felled trees for meager pay now earn wages in processing plants that create added value before export. The government collects more in taxes, jobs multiply, and the economy diversifies. Number 1. Niger. Few countries embody the paradox of African wealth and poverty more starkly than Niger. Beneath its soil lies some of the world's richest uranium deposits, yet for decades, Niger has remained one of the poorest nations on Earth. Why? Because its uranium didn't build Niamey schools, hospitals, or industries. It powered Paris. France, since the 1970s, has built its entire reputation as a clean energy powerhouse on nuclear power. Today, 70% of France's electricity grid is nuclear-based, giving Paris the illusion of independence, resilience, and modern efficiency. But peel back the surface, and you see a startling reality. This independence was propped up by uranium pulled from Niger's mines at dirt-cheap prices. For decades, the arrangement was brutally one-sided. French companies like Areva, now Orano, extracted uranium under contracts that disproportionately favored France, while Niger's citizens remained trapped in poverty. Towns near uranium mines often lacked electricity, an irony so grotesque it symbolized the entire relationship. Niger powered France's lights, but lived in the dark itself. That imbalance snapped when Niger's new leadership imposed strict new controls on uranium exports. In effect, they told Paris, "No more giveaways. If you want our uranium, you pay the real price." Overnight, the narrative of French energy independence crumbled. France is now grappling with rising costs, shrinking supply, and a harsh truth that its energy grid depends on Niger far more than Niger depends on France. This wasn't just economics. It was sovereignty. For Niger, finally using its resources as leverage was a declaration that its wealth would no longer go unchallenged. For France, it was humiliation, a forced admission that the power dynamic had flipped. The message was loud. African nations are no longer content to play silent suppliers. They are demanding their rightful seat at the global table. Do you think the West can actually survive without Africa's raw materials? Will these bans push the West to finally invest in Africa fairly? Or will they try to retaliate and force a new kind of dependency? In the comment section below, share your thoughts on whether African nations should go even further and create a continental alliance to coordinate all resource policies, an OPEC-style model for Africa's minerals. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We bring videos on Black Africa, its history, rich arts and culture, and things the world should know about. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.